Welcome to Peak Personalities. This is a series we'll be doing bi-weekly with me and Nathan. The concept will be going by one series at a time, talking about some of our favorite moments, and for now, we're covering Bleach.
Can you guess who my peak personalities guy is? Oh, damn, I just kind of spoiled it, didn't I?
Damn. We just limited it to the 80% male cast of Bleach. Holy shit. This can make it easy.
All right, who do you think it is?
I'm gonna say Chunsui.
Sensui?
Yeah.
No.
Damn it.
No, that was actually a good guess though for overall. And I was like, you know what? Because I was looking at our video history, and I thought it'd be a great time to go pick Ichigo. So we're doing Ichigo.
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 Man, it's gonna be probably a long one because like each point, because he's a main character, we could probably talk about 3 different things.
All right, let's give a brief intro to those of you who are watching this. Ichigo is our main protagonist in Bleach, if you didn't know. We like to call him Ichigo because he's a great protagonist. He is a substitute soul reaper and what do they call it, a mixing pot, if you will, or I forgot what the...
Yeah, it's kind of cultural mixing pot.
Yeah, he's a cultural mixing pot of literally everything, and that you could throw into someone in the series, which, I mean, that's kind of an interesting choice by Kubo. I mean, it's pretty unique. If I had to describe some traits to describe Ichigo, I would say he has a very unwavering hero's resolve. He is very adaptable, and he is one that you, if you want to say, can really reject fate. And that's probably a really good character way to describe Ichigo. He finds his way into parts in this series for many reasons, and a lot of them are kind of unintentional because they're kind of happen by chance for him. And we'll go through that as we discuss with him. Do you got anything to say about Ichigo?
He does have a goal. I don't know why people think he doesn't have a goal. He does. There's just a lot of people who think if he doesn't say, "Oh, I want to be the Hokage," he actually has no ambitions. It's like, well, no, he has ambition. He has drive. He states it in his first chapter. He's like, "Bro, I don't want to see these ghosts. I don't want to have to interact with people. I just want to sit down, lay down, focus on my family, get shit done."
He's just a chill guy.
And yeah, his growth comes from, still wanting those things, but finding the balance between, what the world asks of him and what he really wants.
Yeah, and I will say Ichigo really learns to take hold part of that side of him where is special, that he does have some type of connection, a greater purpose than his, casual life that he'd rather, just go about and live. And that's probably one of my favorite things about Ichigo because it's kind of relatable, if you will. Like, he's not your guy that's just like, oh yeah, I want to be Hokage, or I want to be the strongest. Ichigo's just like, I'm just gonna do what I have to do, and that's really unique of Ichigo that, as a protagonist in a shonen series, and that's one of the reasons why I like him so much.
Yeah, he's really relatable. No one's thinking in their day-to-day life like, oh, I just want to save the world from a kaiju. Everyone's, doing their own part and just trying to make their own piece in the world work, and that's what Ichigo's all about.
Absolutely. All right, so plot implications. Okay. There's a lot of ones for this one. So Ichigo serves a major role in practically every arc. He's a driver, if you will. Sometimes he is the one that keeps the arc moving along. Kubo is really good at using Ichigo to have the staple fights, and because it is a shonen series, but he also finds a way to get the captains involved and have Ichigo mend into the plot. Some of the major arcs are obviously the Soul Society arc when he's going to save Rukia, the Thousand Year Blood War arc, even the Arrancar arc. I would say Ichigo, he plays a major role towards the end of it, because in the beginning he's more so he's more so in it because he has to be, just from how the Espada are and how Aizen literally just wants to mess with Ichigo half the time. And then obviously we have the arc with Ginjo and all them, Lost Agent arc, which is another arc that Ichigo is the staple for because guess what? He doesn't have any powers. What other series does that? And so that's some of Ichigo's major plot implications.
See, the thing is, I can't really speak on the arcs because this video would be an hour long.
It's gonna be.
We talked about all the monumental ways that he changes the arcs, so I'd rather talk about one of the narrative tools
Ooh, okay.
that is done with Ichigo, where oftentimes one of the things that series struggle with, like for example, JJK kind of backed themselves in a corner with Gojo because he's so powerful. Like literally everything will be solved with him if he's there. That's why he had to be written out midway through season 2 of the anime.
Oh, spoiler, JJK spoilers for if no one,
oh no,
if people aren't present on Twitter.
And one of the things Kubo does time and time again is like acknowledges a unique reason why Ichigo is the driving force and why he has to be there and why it has to be him, and then play with the tension on the arrival time. So, for example, in the Soul Society arc, like we know Rukia could be executed any day, and when he's doing his Bankai training, it goes from like, oh, we have like this many days to prepare to, oh, it's tomorrow. And we don't see him finish his training, so we have no clue when he's going to arrive on the scene. And when he arrives on the Sokyoku, that is such a cool moment. And it really plays on that tension. And another way that happens later in the series is right when Unohana reveals, like, Ichigo, you're the only one who hasn't seen Aizen Shikai, which means you're probably the only person who can defeat Aizen. And then Hiyori gets cut in half, and Shinji's like, where the fuck is Ichigo, man? And where's Orihime? And then,
where's our white mage?
1,000 Year Blood War? 1,000 Year Blood War, Ichigo's stuck in Koge's cage, and everyone, Soul Society just learns, like, Ichigo's the only person who's Bankai they can't steal. He's the only one who can save us from the situation. Everyone's like, where the fuck is Ichigo, though? It just really plays up the tension in those like 3 different scenes. I think it really highlights the narrative importance and why it has to be him.
And I like how Kubo actually plays around with it, where in each of those arcs you see that like you don't know if Ichigo can really beat Aizen, right? Especially with the earlier in the arc where Aizen literally just catches his sword with like pretty much one finger and then it goes, and then Ichigo just explodes in blood.
Unohana's like, it has to be Ichigo, and you're like, can he even do it though?
And then Ichigo rolls up and he's like, it's like, okay, can he even beat any one of these captains? And he's speed blitzing Byakuya. So, and then in the 1,000 Year Blood War, where we have that mindset of, oh, if Ichigo was here, he definitely could, whop some of these Sternritters easily. But he's trapped in a cage. It literally feels like it was smarter in Kubo. It lets us know that Ichigo's kind of stuck, and it shows really good character growth for him. And how I say that is Ichigo, he shows that inner turmoil he's going on through, with how he can hear the voices of all the Soul Society members just getting absolutely tortured and slaughtered. And we know we're Ichigo in this moment where we're like, we want to save you, but we're literally pulled back from that. But it gave us some good fights and some, good intros to the Sternritters and such. So strong character moments. Okay, Ichigo has a lot of strong character moments. I was looking up some quotes for Ichigo, and man, he has some banger of lines, man. And I would call Ichigo that unwavering hero for many reasons, and it's mainly because he does it because he has to. Probably his biggest thing is he doesn't care what it takes to do it. And so, for example, a strong character moment for me is, I think it's with the Ukiura fight, right? Where Ichigo says, I think he says something along the lines, you think because you're stronger than me that...
You think I give up because you're stronger than me?
Is that the...
I have to win.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, is that the quote? I'm trying to look at my...
Yeah, it's something like that.
I have the quote saved, and I'm trying to find them. He says, I'm not fighting because I want to win. I'm fighting because I have to win. That was one quote from Ichigo.
Now, I always get that part where he fights you a watch confused. Because he says like the same thing in both of those fights.
Ichigo's full of bars though, so
he is.
I think that fight with Ukiura was a really good fight. Obviously, because we got to see. I don't want to call it. I don't want to call it a Vasto Lord Ichigo, just more full hollow Ichigo fight. But that fight prior to that moment, we see how like Ukiura is literally looking at Ichigo like, dude, you have no chance. You have no shot. I'm even gonna. Here's my other state that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to take it one step above and show you how really hopeless the situation you are in. And Ichigo still just doesn't give up. And I think we talked about this in the Ukiura fight, that it was such a good moment for Ichigo because he knows that he just has to do it. He just has to, even if he's weak, he has to just do it, even though he's there. And I think a lot of shonens, they love to throw power creeps on their characters, and I guess Ichigo didn't really power creep here. He more just got, saved. That's just something I like about Ichigo. It's very unique, and I don't see it often in shonens. What do you think?
I have 2 things I want to talk about. The first one, small moment, I really like when Ishin comes onto the scene with Ichigo against Aizen.
Mm.
And kind of like, oh shit, your dad's a Soul Reaper. And then Ishin takes Ichigo to like a corner, and the first thing the viewers are wanting, what Ishin expects Ichigo to say is like, oh, you're a Soul Reaper the whole time, like, why didn't you tell me, or whatever. And Ichigo looks at him and just says, you probably had your own reasons for not telling me. Like, tell me when you're ready, man. And that's kind of shocking because we've watched Ichigo mature from the start of the series, and like, this is not a take I would ever expect Ichigo to say at the start of the show. And it's a really strong character moment to show how far he's come and the maturity he has to recognize himself and others and like what they're ready for.
Well, so yeah, that's a good scene because normally Ichigo would be like, "Why in the hell didn't you tell me? You could have been helping us this whole time." And then now here's Ichigo being like, "Nah, you had your reasons, bro. It's okay."
My strong character moment, these two things kind of they hit the same vibe for me, so you can throw them together. But basically, the whole journey of self-acceptance and, realization and acknowledgement that Ichigo has to go through, like each part of the story in the arc, he's like accepting a new part of himself. He started off already knowing and accepting his human self. Then he has to accept his Soul Reaper side, his Hollow side, his Fullbringer side, and then lastly, his Quincy side. And when these 5 parts come into one cohesive package and he feels like a whole person and he's ready to take on anything at the end of Blade is Me, and when he uses a Horn of Salvation, peak.
Absolute peak.
So great.
You gotta love Ichigo and how he's literally a mixing pot of everything, and he finds a way to make it blend so well without being too OP. He is OP, but I would say Kubo does make he did make Yuha a little OP, but that's here to there. All right, so now we're on biggest surprise for Ichigo. The biggest surprise for me was honestly when we found out he was a Quincy. There was hints of that throughout the series, but it wasn't until then when I realized, okay, Ichigo's literally getting like every power in the series. But he didn't get really spammed with Quincy abilities, even though he was a fresh Quincy, I guess, that just got like all his powers revealed.
One of my favorite foreshadow moments about Ichigo being Quincy, his bed sheets at the start of the show. Most people know about that. And one hidden one, this one, it wasn't until I read like the Fullbringer arc for my 5th time in the manga. When he is learning how to use his Fullbringer, he's like throwing these baby shows out with his combat pass. Mentioned that the amount of blades varies based on like how much energy he's putting into it and whatnot. One of these blades manifests into a 5-bladed baby show, and it looks exactly like a Quincy cross.
I forgot about that. It's crazy. Thanks for reminding me on that. It gives more reason to rewatch the Lost Agent arc. Any other biggest surprise you have for Ichigo?
Bigger surprises for Ichigo? See, I did anime only, and then I kind of just watched a bunch of videos. So I didn't really have room to firsthand experience the Quincy reveal and be surprised about it. I was just like, oh, I guess that's a thing. And I was like, that makes sense. And then I didn't really think about it. So for me, I think the thing I found most surprising was when he first holofied against Byakuya, because I was like, holy shit, what is that? And he's a menace.
It was a Kurama moment from Naruto. I do have another biggest surprise. Back in early Bleach, I really thought Old Man Zangetsu was like Ichigo's like true like Zanpakuto. I always had the impression White was gonna be that kind of Kurama moment where his like hollow powers are just gonna amp him. But it wasn't until later on when White was yelling out like I am Zangetsu, right? That didn't really click with me till much later on. And then when the Blade is Me came out, it kind of just cemented that Old Man Zangetsu is just the manifestation of his Quincy powers, which conveniently looks like Yuha, but or a different like a mid-20s or 30s Yuha. That was a surprise back then for me. Like I remember reading that in the manga, I was like, bro, what? So that was a surprise for me, I guess. Let's go off to peak moments. Whenever we do peak moments, I got to think of something that's really gonna like. If I mentioned it, it had to like make some type of impact on me. And I think it was that fight against Byakuya where I was like, I was watching the fight. I was like, okay, like Ichigo went through his Bankai training, and he's looking really cool right now. Like, what's going on? And then when he goes Bankai, and then you just have that probably one of the most iconic Bleach scenes where you see the he drops his Zanpakuto down, and you just see all the sand disappear, and then you just see or dust, and you just see Ichigo just standing there and going Tensei Zangetsu. That is probably one of the peakest moments of this series for me. That Soul Society arc is so good, but that was such a peak moment for me. He looks cool. Like, that's just what you want out of your main character. He's got a black sword because black swords are cool. He's got his Soul Reaper outfit, just looks different, has a little blood red inside of it. It makes it even cooler. Got torn off ends at the bottom because just for style, I guess. Yeah, that's one of my favorite moments of Ichigo. There's more, but that's the one that I can always recall to and always rewatch.
I think number one peak moment. Oh, it's just so hard with Ichigo. There's so many great moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he stops the Sokyoku.
Oh man.
There's a fucking all that fire around. He's like, and one time he does his Zangetsu twirl. That is my favorite Ichigo fit, and I'm so sad it did not last.
It did not, but man, did that make an impression. I thought we were going like a guts route too, like during that time.
What else does Ichigo do that's completely baller?
I always love the scene where he threw his Zanpakuto straight to the ground and looked at Yuha, like to stop Yuha in his tracks. Even though he got bodied that fight, it's still a pretty cool moment. Ichigo was on business there.
I know there's more. My dumbass is struggling. Oh, my fucking the peak moment I wanted to highlight first. That I forgot about.
Okay.
So when Ichigo comes onto the scene after Dongai training, and he's like, Aizen, let's do somewhere else, and Aizen's like, ha, bitch, you thought you could tell me what to, and he just gets carried across the universe to this mountain scheme.
Literally.
And you're just like, oh yeah, I guess he's just him now.
You know what? There's our peak moment there. It's when Ichigo goes into Mugetsu. How do you feel about Mugetsu?
Like, story-wise,
Everything.
looks-wise,
Everything. Is there some hot takes about Mugetsu?
it looks absolutely baller. I just think that attack seemed way too slow for Aizen to not be able to dodge it. That
It's okay. Aizen was seeing the world at a pretty low frame rate at the
he
time.
was stun locked.
He was stun locked.
He just realized
He was being a bit
that
lag.
Ichigo was stronger than him, and he had a transformation left.
He was also lagging. Reality started to set in for either that was going super, super fast and Aizen just couldn't dodge it, but
They slow-moed it for his mortals.
either he was captivated by the aura.
I think the other peak moment is Ichigo's wallop on you watch round 2 with his new swords. Like that added in the anime, it was so great.
Oh, I thought they were really good. It really cemented that Ichigo has gotten stronger. Oh yeah, that's where also in the fight against Aizen, I think Ichigo literally tells him, "You just talk too much." I think we're down to favorite things about Ichigo here. Going back to the hero line for Ichigo, Ichigo really has that "I'll do whatever it takes" mentality, and even though I don't think he needed to go into Mugetsu, I think he did it. He knew he had to do it, and he knew it was going to cost him his powers. And Ichigo, that was a real thing for Ichigo, where he was really to be that hero, to sacrifice everything that he has, all just to save everyone. And people that he doesn't really have to save. He didn't have to save the Soul Society. He didn't have to do that. But, I mean, he was more so doing it for all his friends and such. And just knowing that Aizen needs to be stopped or else, bad things are going to happen, whether Ichigo knew about him or not. That's one of my favorite things about Ichigo, is that he's willing to do the absolute most if it means it saves the people he cares about. And that's one of the most relatable things about Ichigo.
Oh, shit, wait.
Hold on, we got to talk about Fullbring.
We have to talk about Fullbring art. There's one thing I have to talk about.
Okay, you can probably quote it better than I can.
All right, so.
Well, there's our peak moment in there. All right, yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
This will turn into a peak moment. So one of my favorite things that Kubo does narratively for Ichigo is he understands there's not yin without yang. You cannot have peak without depression. So time and time again, the lowest lows, like Ichigo's sword being broken twice. He swings back even harder the following fight, trying to make up for what happened. And I don't think there is a lower low than what happened to Ichigo in the Fullbring arc. He has been systematically alienated from pretty much all his friends or family. He doesn't know who to turn to. People he does turn to, he doesn't even trust, but he can't think of a better solution. And then Book at the End turns the people who are actually on his side against him too. And once he finally feels like he has enough power to dictate his own fate, it all comes crumbling down. He gets injured, his powers get taken, he's on his knees begging for his powers back. Is he needs this agency for himself. He doesn't know how to live in this world. These 17 months have shown him he doesn't know how to live without his Soul Reaper powers or powers in amongst itself. He wants to be able to make sure his family at least doesn't get attacked by hollows. And then he gets his powers back. And you're just like, we are back.
Yeah, that's another one of my favorite moments. It's because you see Ichigo's face, and Kubo's drawing is so good here. A lot of people bash on Kubo for some reason. His drawing is absolutely goated. And Ichigo's face, you could see his eyes. Like, you could see this boy is exhausted. Like, he is depressed. And when you see he turns around, he's getting stabbed. He's probably thinking to himself, oh, great. Now I'm going to die. And then he sees Rukia right there, and he's like, Rukia. And then it just explodes in straight power. Oh, so good. That's not my peak moment from the Lost Agent arc.
And the second peak moment is when Genji's like, oh, your Getsuga attention is pretty powerful. He's like, yeah, that wasn't Getsuga. Let me show you. And then he does it, cuts a mansion in half. He's like, oh, sorry, I missed. What happened again?
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, I totally didn't miss on purpose there, by the way. He's like, yeah, that wasn't a Getsuga. That was literally just the swing of my blade. Oh, I love that moment. I remember when I first saw that, I got literally chills. I was like, wow. I'm like, that's my protagonist right there.
It's so good in the anime, because the other thing that's great about that anime scene is you see the tension, and what was happening is when he was in his low moment, it started raining. And with his powers and with that Getsuga Tensho, he literally parts the clouds in the sky, indicating that with his agency, he is now dictating his future, and he won't let someone else's actions ruin his day. He's going to set the tone for himself.
And he does. Oh, that was so good. Thanks for bringing that back up. We had to talk about that. A lot of people don't like the Lost Agent arc, but you've given me more reason to appreciate it. So
It's peak.
what do you got for your favorite thing about Ichigo?
We're going all the way back to June. June. The month his mom died. It was such a great way to tie humanity and relatability to Ichigo, to give him a day of mourning where he and his family, they don't go to work, they don't go to school, they just spend time together and mourn their mother's loss. And this is like the first time we're understanding like Ichigo's hatred of hollows and his hesitancy to put himself out there, because he already lost his mom. He doesn't want to be another loss on the list for his family. And I think this is like the point where a lot of people start putting more of their feelings and emotions into the story and towards Ichigo.
I agree. And I will say Ichigo is a very, like, he's stoic by nature, but a lot of our main protagonists in other series, especially shonens, they have a very common trend where they're heroic, but they're also like overly confident and don't have any like deep roots to them that you can say like Naruto. People are always going to quote that, oh, he had a rough life. In the manga, he really didn't. And the manga doesn't show that people were like, yeah, people were mean to him, but that was about it. It's hard to empathize with a character. You don't have that emotional side of it.
On a similar note, like Tanjiro lost like 8 members of his family. He's like fucking SpongeBob. He won't stop smiling. It's just doesn't really make you feel that sad for him. But like Ichigo, you see the change in the story of him, like his joy as a kid compared to how he was as a teen at the start of Bleach. And that's one of the things that's the most heartwarming about Bleach's story is looking at Kazui's smile at the end of the story in the Hell arc and seeing like Ichigo's inner child and happiness has been given like a rebirth in his son, and Kazui has the chance that Ichigo didn't have as a kid. Kazui has a chance to have 2 parents and a loving household without the tragedy that Ichigo encountered.
That's perfect. And we finally got to the end of we finally referenced the end of the series finally. Haha. That was a good one. But that's all I have for Ichigo, unless you have any more closing thoughts.
No, that's all I got.
We kind of talked about everything.